Okay, so the last thing we need is another white woman expressing her opinion, but um, here's why I am not going to be unfriending anyone on Facebook. And if you do, for your own mental health, you should. Unfollow? Yeah. Some of the stuff that I'm seeing is really, I'm an empathetic person. It's upsetting. I don't want to see it in my timeline. But giving up on somebody who is on their journey, it's just not something I want to do. You know, when I was in my first day of trigonometry in high school, which I hated, I didn't know anything. My teacher didn't give up on me because I didn't know anything yet. I grew up in Ohio in predominantly white schools and churches, and I didn't know anything. You know, I just didn't. I could have been a perch clutcher. I could have been listening to the news only. Honestly, I don't remember because I have a horrible long-term memory. I have really good short-term memory, but bad long-term. But I do remember that when we moved to Indiana in 8th grade, Ruthie was the only person in the school that would befriend this nerdy white girl. And she happened to be a black girl. And she was my first real friend after the move when I was feeling very lonely and to the point of just a deep depression of like scary, like I don't know if I want to be here anymore stuff, because I just didn't feel like I belonged, and she made me feel like I did. And then in high school, you know, I went to a diverse school in Anderson, Indiana, and my classmates did not fit, you know, what the news was telling me or what Hollywood was telling me. And there was this really cool girl, Erin, that I kind of wanted to be when I grew up. She was a couple grades ahead of me, and she danced really great in show choir and sang beautifully, and she got straight A's, and she was a cheerleader, and she happened to be a black girl, and I looked up to her a lot. And then when I became a teacher, I taught in some schools that were not diverse and some schools that were, and the ones that were richer and better classes because of their stories and because of different perspectives. You know, and then I met my friend Henriette, and I heard her story of Rwanda, and in 1994, I was in high school. I had never even known what was happening in the Rwandan genocide, and I said, why have you not told people this story? And she's like, nobody is willing to kind of sit down and listen. And so we spent 2 years writing her book, and I got to travel to, I can't afford to go to Rwanda, but I got to travel through her stories and her imagination. And she made me better. She made me a better Christ follower. She taught me and led me and mentored me in ways that I'm extremely grateful for. She didn't give up on me. And I remember as a teacher at Elkhart Central just last year, first day of classes, I'm giving a lecture. I'm trying to tell my students, like, hey, this class is different. I love you. I think each and every one of you have something to say. It was a speech class. And I honestly want to be the person that gives you the microphone to say it. And I want you to help you be the best version of yourself. And not their fault, but their eyes are glazing over. They've been through a lot of first day of school lectures that day. And my student assistant, Kenneth, stood up and said, hey, Miss Baker, can I say something? And I said, sure, buddy, what's going on? And he gave this little speech saying, I know you guys are tired. I know school sucks, but Mrs. Baker really does care for you. And her speech class changed my life and made me more confident, made me a better speaker. And she really does love all of you. She really means it. He used his privilege as a student to make my voice heard. And he happens to be a black student. I could tell you about Kenneth all day. He's an incredible guy. So, my friends on Facebook that are saying things that are disheartening, that are saying things in reply to this movement that are upsetting, I just don't know yet, right? So if I unfriend them, is that not the new version of white flight, where I don't engage and say, you're on a journey, you're upset because it's striking a chord with you, and you're leaning in because you're realizing that this should affect you, and you're upset and you're defensive. Being defensive is really the first step in learning. Ask any high school teacher. So to my friends that are saying things that I don't agree with, I may unfollow you for my own mental health, but I will not unfriend you just because you haven't met your Ruthies and Henriettes and Kenneths and Aarons. And maybe you avoided them on purpose. I don't know. Maybe you just happen to be born in a family that had you live in certain places like I did in Ohio before we moved to Indiana. Wherever you are in your journey on this spectrum that is racism and white supremacy, I just want you to know that I love you and I'm proud of you for leaning into the discussion, no matter where you are, because every step forward is a good one. And if I am in a church where a pastor gets up and says something that I don't agree with on this issue, I am not going to leave the church. I'm going to have discussions with the pastor. I'm going to try to help our leaders see. Now, I do want to say, I haven't seen that from any of my pastors currently, but if it comes up, if we that are leaning in and learning and growing, if we leave the places and let there be these echo chambers of ideology that just reinforce white supremacy and reinforce racist views, I just don't think that's going to be helpful. So I do not judge any of my friends that are unfriending people. You're taking a stand. That's your choice. That there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that for me, as an educator that understands the learning process, anger and defensiveness is part of that process. So I just want all my friends to know that you're loved no matter where you are on this journey. I may call you on some stuff, and I will, because we all need to be better. Me too. I'm learning a lot. I've messed up a lot in the past with my limited lens, and I'm changing some of the ways I'm teaching this next year because of it. And I'm sorry it took me so long to learn it. But I'm not going to give up on my friends. Wherever you are in the learning process, keep moving forward. And if you fall a couple steps back, it may hurt me to see, and I may be frustrated with you, but I'm still going to pray and hope that you meet your Henriettes and your Kenneths and your Aarons and your Ruthies, and we all move forward towards the world that Jesus calls us to. Hope that's helpful. Love you all.